LSU is headed to Orlando for the second year in a row as they go to the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, and that's something that benefits a lot of teams having experience playing, especially playing in Florida, as they, play Florida every couple of years, being close in the South. I think that's really going to benefit them.
And it'll be nice and sunny. Not that it's too far of a commute for them. This hasn't been the same Notre Dame team we've seen at the beginning of the season, so will they be able to get it together before they play on New Year's Day? Well, we'll have to see, but their rushing attack remains the same. They average 280 rushing yards per game. They're able to just find those holes and get through the defensive line, something they're going to need to do against LSU. And they've had a pretty tough schedule when you look at it. They've played USC, Georgia, North Carolina State, and Miami, and Stanford. That's 5 top 25 teams. They lost to Stanford and Miami, got absolutely embarrassed by Miami. But that's one of the tougher schedules we've seen all season, and they've been able to get through most of it unscathed.
And something that's really interesting is when you look at how teams fare as far as travel goes for bowl games, playing in places that they haven't played before, definitely in a long time for some teams. And the extra travel is really interesting. You see them talk about it a lot when it comes to college basketball and the playoff and March Madness, but it comes into account a lot when it comes to these bowl games. They have a little more time beforehand to acclimate to the weather, acclimate to the new time zones, but going through the time zones and going that far south can really plague a lot of teams, and I think that's going to play to LSU's advantage a lot. As we said, they've played in Florida before, they're used to the weather, whereas Notre Dame has to travel from the freezing cold of South Bend, Indiana, all the way down south to Orlando. And defense wins bowl games, that wins championships. LSU has one of the best defenses in the country. They're one of the top SEC defenses. They've been able to shut down opposing teams all season long. They're top 20 in almost every statistical category as far as defense goes, and it hasn't been more evident than this year specifically. You can see it on the field. They just completely shut down the other team's attack no matter what they're going for. They're good at all levels, secondary, linebackers, defensive line. They're able to just completely dominate opposing teams. And their offense has progressed enough to allow them to win or at least stay in close games this year. They haven't been like the LSU of past with Leonard Fournette that has that one just dominant player, but they have become a little more balanced, and they've scored at least 30 points in 4 out of their last 5 games, which is the first time LSU's done that in recent history.
Though we can't forget they got Troy for homecoming, losing by 3, but absolutely embarrassing. Since then, they've bounced back, especially with the huge win over Florida for their homecoming. But one thing that might come into play this game is all the distractions. They do have a leg up there. They've also had a lot of adversity this season. They had eligibility issues. They had injuries. They still have a lot of guys who won't be suiting up this game, but they've found a way around that. Most of these guys have been out since the beginning of the season, and they've been able to find guys to fill those positions quickly and lead them to a good bowl game as we enter the postseason.
Because you're at Notre Dame, there's so much added pressure to you every year. The boosters are always on everyone there. The fans expect to win every game, and they just haven't had the luck of the Irish this year like they have in years past. They've gotten a lot of unlucky bounces and just unlucky calls all season long, and it's really caused them to slip in these last 3 games, losing 2 of their last 3. And they also don't have a passing attack at all. They only average about 175 yards a game, which is just going to kill you if you become one-dimensional against one of the top defenses in the SEC. And the only other game they've played in Florida this year was against Miami, where they got completely demolished in South Beach. That was just a complete embarrassment for Notre Dame. And if that game in Florida ends up anything like this game, this could be a complete blowout in LSU's favor.
Well, and speaking of one-dimensional, the one person that Notre Dame does have is Josh Adams. That is who LSU is going to be targeting. He's very explosive. He has almost 1,400 yards on the season. He averages 7.3 yards per carry, which is huge, and he has 9 touchdowns. But will he be able to get through this defensive line? It's an SEC team. They also don't have much experience with SEC teams in the defense. But it's all going to come down to Adams and the offensive line. The offensive line is going to have to be on their A game and create those opportunities, because if Josh Adams gets shut down, well, you can expect all of Notre Dame to pretty much get shut down.
And LSU's offense is fairly similar. Danny Etling has to be rolling in order for them to have any chance of winning. He's played smart and he's played safe all year, and that's gotten them this far. But in a big bowl game against an elite defense, you have to be a little more than just play it safe and a lot of check down and just throw check down passes. You have to take some risks downfield, and it's how those risks turn out that's going to determine the outcome of this overall game. If he's able to hit a couple deeper passes to some of his receivers on the outside, they're going to have an excellent chance at really just dominating Notre Dame's defense and stretching them downfield so they can't load the box against the amazing rushing offense of LSU.
It all depends on which Notre Dame team we see come out. If we see the one that came out against Georgia, they didn't get much of the rushing game that they're used to, but they were also really good in the passing attack that day, played very physical. Then this team is going to take control and beat LSU in Orlando. But if we see the team that came out against Miami, who just shut themselves down and was not playing the physical ball that we've seen throughout the rest of the season, then they're not going to get this game. But I'm counting on that physical defense to come back, that physical rushing attack, and I think that they're going to win.
Yeah, and that's a very safe bet betting on Notre Dame. They're always good in the postseason. They have one of the best bowl records in all of college football. But for me, the LSU defense is going to win this game. I just think that they're more physical. I think they're going to be able to shut down the running game of Notre Dame, and when they do that, they're going to be just like Georgia. It's going to be a very close game, but I think they're going to be able to squeak out a win. And the fact that they have experience playing both in the state of Florida and in this stadium specifically, and this bowl game even more specifically, I think that's going to play to their advantage. Their players know what to do. Their coaching staff knows what to do. They've done it before, and I think they're going to do it again.
If you like this week's episode, feel free to check out some of our others. Thanks for watching RedZone to EndZone.